crazy story. Just like the others, how am I always involved? I can't explain it. Must be something in the air, or maybe it's just me. Is it me? Is it me? I can't explain. What else can I say?
Welcome back to Isn't Me. I'm your host, Michelle Forster. It's Friday, so we've had another week to spiral. Look, I've got a tagline now. In the studio, we've got my co-host, Josh Shapiro. As always, he's here. And today's guest, I'm very excited to introduce you to. This guest is a little bit different. I know you guys are used to hearing comedians, but we are expanding our horizons here. We're going to other artists in Montreal because Montreal is full of them, and artists are always spiraling. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Julien Corrado. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for hitting me up. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, it's great. Julien and I don't even know each other, but we have a mutual friend, and she recommended that you come on the show. You're a musician, right?
Yep.
That's your like main art.
Main art. Yeah, I play drums.
Okay, cool.
In a
Just
band.
drums in a band.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really
How
cool.
long have you been in your band for? Or has your band been together?
We've been together as a band, as a duo. So it's a two-piece rock and roll band called
Okay.
the Flamingo Spiral.
Sick.
Yeah. I play drums. Sash sings and plays guitar.
Nice.
We've been a band for almost 6 years.
Okay, awesome.
Wow, so two people.
Two people. Yeah.
Wow, and
Yeah.
you've like 2 years and the whole time, like you've been performing.
no, 6 years.
6 years, sorry, on and off, or not
No,
on and off,
fully
full,
on.
full on.
Yeah.
Wow, and
Yeah.
like never
Never
had
wavered?
any. No, never wavered.
I
never
mean,
had any. Two
never
people.
spiraled. Yeah.
Yeah.
One might say I'm spiraling right now.
Always
I
spiraling.
mean, yeah, exactly.
Did you guys know each other before you started the band?
Yeah, actually, we were. The long story is I was his hall room monitor. We're 7 years apart, so I met him when he was 12 and I was 19.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and
Oh,
then
wow.
7 years later, he became a hall monitor, and I had come back. You know, as a musician, you always have these jobs, the on and off jobs. And I came back, and we were hall monitors together, and we started a band there. I organized a band for the kids, and I said, I'll do it if I could do a band with the hall monitors. And he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, I can sing." I remember him from when he was 12, and I was like, "Okay, cool, that's crazy. I didn't know." And he gave me these headphones, and he's singing "Jailhouse Rock" by Elvis Presley, and it blew me away.
Wow.
And I knew we were gonna play music together. And then, now we've been in a band for 6 years. It's like our friendship spans a long, long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And was he like the kid that you were like, okay, this one's not bad when he was 12?
No, very, very quiet kid, shy
Okay, you didn't
kid.
really know him.
As well as kids
For
that
sure.
you're a hall monitor for.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
When you say hall monitor, you mean like at a school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. Are you just monitoring the hall?
Yeah, like I was replacing teachers, or you're
Okay.
going on
Gotcha.
how do you say, like
Field trips?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Field
exactly,
trips.
exactly.
Okay.
Or like
okay.
lunch outside
Yeah,
or something.
exactly. So you
Like,
get to know kids.
That's what I mean.
Even the
It's
shy
like-
ones, or he wasn't a troublemaker. If you're trying to say was he a troublemaker?
No,
he wasn't.
not was he in trouble? Was he like the one that you were like, this one's a cool kid? Like this one's fine.
He was just a very polite and very shy kid.
Yeah. Who could sing Jailhouse
I was
Rock?
a piece of shit.
Well, you didn't know. Yeah, I was.
That's-
I
yeah.
was rambunctious to say the least.
Yeah. I feel like you were always getting suspended.
I only ever got suspended twice.
I was bad in elementary school, but in high school, I was playing sports.
Okay,
and
nice.
if you got suspended or much less than just suspended, you'd get benched. So you didn't want to get benched.
Yeah,
That's fair.
there's stakes
Yeah.
when you're playing sports. Yeah,
Yeah.
grew up playing sports as well, and you have to be on your best behavior because a lot of your teachers are the coaches, and so they
Yeah,
they
that's
know
true.
and they can hear, and it gets back to them. Didn't you get kicked out also?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got kicked
Maybe.
out. No, yeah,
bad
I got
boy.
kicked out. But then, so I was worse, like, end of elementary school and beginning of high school. And then, like, after 9th grade, like, they broke my will, and I was just like, I'm just going to quiet down. And to be honest, I started smoking weed. I did some acid, and I was like, why do I let them let me just be quiet and do my thing and not let them know I'm doing my thing, and then everyone's going to leave me alone. And then that's when I finally just stopped getting shit from everyone.
Yeah.
I just smoked weed and got quiet, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're not that bad."
Yeah.
For real.
You're both comedians?
Yes.
Okay. Do you go to school to become a comedian, or you just kind of like...
We just we go to open mics. That's how it really starts here. In French, there's an amazing school. There's École Nationale d'Humour, which is a great program to go into. It's actually very hard to get in. But in English, if I'm being honest, there's probably a few good schools, but most of them are just not worth your time, you know? And not everybody, like, I don't know. There are a few, like there's Second City, which is amazing, and so many amazing talented people. But it's also hard to get into Second City, you know.
It's expensive too. Second City is quite expensive, but Second City is also like more improv focused, which obviously last week or just before we were talking to some comedians about Second City and improv and stuff, which is like definitely good for stand up. But there is Humber College, which I mean, a good friend, one of our good friends of an amazing stand up in Montreal, Hattie Kuba. He is a graduate from that, and I actually keep meeting stand-ups that went to Humber that are so talented because they teach you how to write like the format of jokes. But then there's also kind of like this inside joke among stand-ups that like if you have to go to school to be funny, you're probably not that funny.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from like, I think Jerry Seinfeld once was teaching, they asked him to teach a class on stand-up, and the first thing he said is like, you're just by being here, like you're already not a stand-up.
That's fair.
This already is not funny.
Yeah. You already like, you won't, but I mean, we say that, but then, like I said, I have noticed that a lot of the graduates from Humber, for example, there's some phenomenal.
So
stand-ups.
I would assume that the equivalent in music is performance versus ability. To like perform for a crowd is like you got to get in those hours.
Exactly.
Rather than studying how to play the music.
Exactly. And both are important.
And I would assume equally important. Like depends on what.
I guess it depends. I mean, for me personally, I've always been more of a run and gun kind of person, and as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that if you're only run and gun, then you're kind of missing out on layers and textures that you could be putting into your art. But at the same time, I'm a firm believer in you just do it and then assess what you did and do it again and then do it again and do it again. And so, I mean, our sets are very, very performative in the sense, or high performance, I would say. We're drenched, and you're playing off of each other. And I think the coolest thing is when there are mistakes, it sucks the air out of the room, and then you don't know what's going to happen. And then it takes a split second to look at each other and go like, okay, and it locks in again. And that's what I crave.
And like that almost can't be taught.
It can't.
It has to be learned through working with each other.
And communication. I mean, we were talking about animals and horses, but like nonverbal communication.
Right.
And, you're reading the room, you're reading your bandmate. It's
and I love that you say split second because it like time slows down when you're on. Sometimes when you're on stage.
100%. Or I guess if you don't control it, it could go by in an instant. You know, like your first sets, it's like you don't even remember what happened. Yeah. But I think with time, I've learned to kind of take a step back as it's happening to be able to read what's going on.
And that takes an enormous amount of like presence and like being present. I remember when I started stand-up, someone was explaining to me like the fact, like the idea of like being present like for the audience. And I thought that was such a weird concept because I was like, of course you're present. Like you're there, you're on stage. How could you be any more present? And the thing is, when you start as an open micer, you are kind of in this like hyper aware, hyper present state because like you're trying to remember your jokes and you're so nervous and you're so whatever. But it's like finding like presence after you're like comfortable on stage that I've found. Now I understand what that older comic was talking about of like, you really do need to be dialed into like everything in the room and to have somebody else on stage too is like, wow. So you need so much trust and like.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing, you know, and sometimes I get scared. It's like, okay, it's kind of like a drug, right? You want it. And I have kids now. So I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And that's changed my view on music and you know, what the whole point of it is.
Yes, for sure.
That's so interesting.
It's the presence of it.
It's not just like, about you anymore.
No, but ultimately, performing isn't just about you either. So it's like my whole life, it was like, well, what are you going to do when you have kids? And when you have kids, it's like you go through this phase of going, okay, is this important to me or is it not? And then whatever kind of time that you're putting into something that is not your kids, you're going like, what's the goal of this? You know, what's the purpose of this? So if anything, it gave me a lot more purpose, but the spiraling aspect as well. Sometimes you kind of, if you zoom out too much, it gets a bit overwhelming, you know?
For sure. That's interesting. Like having kids was able, like almost brought more focus into your craft.
Yeah, into the art.
Yeah, and that's not the first time I've heard that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have a kid.
It really is. It really is like one or the other. The way I've seen it like go down with people is like you either give up, not give up, but kind of just like
Let
put
it
it on the
go.
back burner.
Let
Once
it
it's on the
go.
back burner,
Yeah.
you let it go. Or
Double down.
You fucking go hard and really like make it happen. And there is like I feel like we all know as artists we can make it happen better than it's happening currently usually, but like it takes something to get you to do that.
Yeah, I guess to sustain it too. I think that's the mental part and the spiraling part. It's like, okay, I've given so much to this, and I've given so much to the performance, the writing, the everything, and it's not, you know, I guess it's easy to feel unsuccessful, but I think when you redefine what success is, then you can make yourself feel successful to you know. Relatively to yourself, you know, you adjust your expectations.
100%.
But I mean, it's very hard on social media in 2024, and you look around and talk about spiraling too. You know, it's very easy to be like this, you know, fake perfection. Everyone is killing it, and everyone's doing great, and it's I don't know. And then sometimes I struggle. It's like you want to show the struggle, but that can be that level of vulnerability is kind of intense on the internet sometimes. But
yes,
it's fair too. But there is, if you can do it right, you have to be in control of your vulnerability when showing it. You can't just, you know what I mean? There are those people who really dive in and they let people know too much. And then it's like 6 months later, they have people like commenting like, maybe if you fix your issues with your mother, you'd be doing better, you know?
Yeah, but at the same time, I realized too, well, maybe it's similar in comedy as it is in music, but I feel like isn't the goal to share your innermost emotion in order to connect with someone?
For sure.
Because it feels like, you know, when you spiral, you're going like, okay, no one feels this way. I'm alone. And I find like the best way for me, and I'm lucky to have a bandmate. It's like you talk about it and you're like, whether he's lived it or not, you connect and you go like, oh, and you know what? Most of the time people have felt the way you felt.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
all the time.
fully.
So you don't know till you say it, and then when you say it, it feels like, that's
and sometimes
part of the
just-
weight is off.
Yeah, and also sometimes just saying it and like kind of relinquishing to it and saying like admitting it's happening and admitting that you're feeling this way. Some of that too just gets off your chest, you know. And then you have someone, and it's like, especially in stand up, it's. I was just talking to a colleague of mine about this, but in stand up, it's like very much an individual sport, but that's like felt in a collective way. Like we're all kind of feeling a lot of the same things, but sometimes it feels kind of competitive because like it's individualist and it's a very like individual, I think endeavor. It's a selfish endeavor, I would even venture to say. And it's just like, sometimes when you're going through something, it feels like, like you're the only one going through it. But talking to people that are in the same kind of areas, you definitely helps a lot. But with what you were saying about the internet is that sometimes when you put that vulnerability out there, it's there forever, you know? It's very different than like doing a set and being vulnerable for the people that came to see you for that moment. They leave, they go, oh wow, it was nice that person was vulnerable. It doesn't live forever for everyone to judge.
Yeah,
on the internet,
and
it does.
So I think that, and also like my comment about like being in control of it is more like, I think if you end up like just dumping on it, because you were saying that like if you're just pretending like your life is great, people are going to be more interested, they're going to want to be a part of it. But if you're a little bit more in control of how you're going to deliver the information, what your issues are, then you actually thought out how, you know how like when you're emotional and you just kind of say whatever you think you're feeling, you almost say some things that aren't true just because you're emotional.
They're
and you're
true
just
for that moment, but they're not true forever. Yeah.
You get perspective after some time.
Yeah.
So if you're at least to start off able to be in control of your vulnerability, for them to actually like understand the real issues and what's going on, I think there is a path in it. And I think that it's really sick when people do get to do that. But then at the same time, that's just like in all art. Like, are you making true art or are you doing fucking shit that you know is going to sell, you know? And it's much harder to do that and live a vulnerable social media life.
It's very hard. Yeah, I haven't been able to really do it, to be honest. How has your, like, what are you, apart from, you touched on spiraling a little bit about social media and vulnerability, but is there anything else you're spiraling about, like right now, this week, this month? Or in general, forever?
It's funny because I never considered myself to be an anxious person. And I think as time has gone on, I realized, oh, wow, I feel sometimes like I'm the most anxious person that I know. And I guess that's the nature of anxiety is, again, you think you're the only one or you're the most. But I get very existential at times. This may be heavy, but my mom died 15 years ago. And now having kids of my own, I didn't realize that it opened up things that I thought I had put to bed already.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wasn't really ready to face that. I think I'm doing much better with it now because I realize that my fear, so it's like after my mom died, I felt like there was no point in living.
Right.
Like there was no purpose. Like if everything can just be taken away from you, what's the point of even caring because you're just going to get hurt?
Right.
But that's not a sustainable way to view life, selon moi.
Yeah.
And especially when you have kids, because I was like, okay, so my fear is robbing my children from the love that I could be giving them because I'm too fearful. And I was like, that my brain can't compute that, you know? And that kind of pushed me to really just dig deep and realize, okay, so you can't live your life fearing that everything's going to be taken away. Yeah. I think that's the.
So is it almost like when you were dealing with things like up until you had kids, it was like defense mechanisms. Like rather than getting sad, you'd get like mad.
Not even. I could just smile through life, you know. And I realized that it's very easy for me to look like I'm doing all right, but inside, like I could be boiling, I could be raging, and that kind of, it's a fine line between those emotions, and you could be surrounded by people and feel kind of like that rage, or you can be in a chaotic situation and then feel like, everything is chaos.
Yes.
I knew it would be this way and revel in it, you know?
Oh my God, yeah.
But you realize that, you have the capability to live both the emotions, just it's up to me to line up, but it's a tough thing, So
yeah.
I remember a few years ago, there was a person in a circle I was in who was very like evil to everyone, and it was years that everyone knew, and it was like kind of like difficult because you know how people are, that they want to see the benefit of the doubt, or they want to like be good. And anyways, this person ended up like really fucking up and like getting away, and almost like once it was done, and the person was out of our lives, I was like, what now?
Well, yeah. I guess relativity, right? It's easy when that's the focal point, and then it's like, well, it's like again, it's back to caring about something. It's easy to not care about anything and say I don't care, but then what happens when there's nothing happening? And it's like, okay, I gotta care about myself because or else I'm just gonna fade away,
Yeah, or like fade away, or like just kind of live on autopilot. Like there's a lot of people who don't like care, and they just kind of like just doing the things whatever. And yeah. And then they turn to like other things to kind of add excitement to their life,
Yeah.
Like I used to like have, like I don't really drink a bunch anymore. Like I'll have one drink here and there. I'll have like a glass of wine here and there. But I stopped drinking. But the real reason I stopped drinking was because I used to have this like really insane group of like party friends. And that was like my whole life. Like they were the focal of my whole life, like getting fucked up and like getting like, because I realize now that like getting to that level of fucked upness allowed me to have an intimacy with those people. Because when you're like fucked up, you know, the drugs or the alcohol, they make you close in a way. You almost like bond with people more, especially people like who are a bit more repressed. And so I would like my whole life was just surrounded around the weekend about like getting together with this one specific group of friends and like getting super fucked up and like then having all these like moments in my mind that I thought were like beautiful, like these beautiful moments of connection. And then when I like went through something dark, similar like what you explained, like it changed my whole perspective that like after that fact, like I tried to get back into that, be that person again and like go back and like have those moments with. And it was the same situations. I just felt so differently about them because like it didn't, the perspective changed, the relativity changed.
And there's a sentence that I wrote a while back, and it was, when we were doing drugs, at least we were feeling the same things.
Yeah.
And I find that with drugs and, you know, certain party drugs, it's like you have these moments of intense connection, or so you think. And then the next time you see this person sober and you try, it's like not the same level. You don't even talk about what was so interesting when you were on drugs. So you're going, well, if we're having these, it's fake connection, you know? And I was like, I don't like this, you know, because you're two different persons. And then for me, it's like, okay, we're just talking shit then. This is a waste of time. If we're just we're messed up, we're talking about this, and it's like, okay, cool. And the next day, it's like it never happened. I was like, but it's true. You're feeling the same thing. So it's easy to like connect. But then when the drugs wear off, then you're left feeling all kinds of other emotions.
Yeah. Well, then
how do you deal with that?
How do you deal with it?
It's like somebody like they're like in like let's say an unhappy marriage or whatever. And they get all fucked up and they're talking to their friend about it. And they're like, you know what, man, I gotta get out.
Yeah.
I gotta fuck this, man. And then they wake up in the morning and the guy's like, so what do you do? Oh, you're crazy, man. I'm just going back to my life.
Yeah.
Like, so you wake up in the morning, it's all reset. It's just hard reset on everything that happened.
But you know what's even more weird is it's like if you're telling your friend what it is that you're unhappy about, and then it's like, well, did you tell the person that you're with? It's like, no.
Exactly.
It's like, well, how are you gonna fix anything if you're not real about your feelings, right? But you know, to be real with someone else about your feelings, you got to be real
with yourself.
And I think that's the toughest thing, you know?
Yeah. It was also like this very, like I like to connect with people deeply, and I think when I found stand-up, my relationships with people changed because I realized that I was having all of that connection that I was craving so much in like my party drug era phase with people. And I was having those strong connections with like crowd members or audience members or like other comics, like just like in the green room or after the show. And like that changed my ability to even connect with my friends. And like a lot of those people I'm not even friends with anymore because we drifted away because they were not able, like they're only able to connect that way fucked up and not sober. And like it was so weird, like the magic literally wore off. Like I remember like 4 years ago being with this group of people and being like, these are my fucking like soulmates, like for life. And I don't feel that way anymore now that I'm not necessarily drinking anymore or whatever, getting fucked up anymore. And it's been so weird and existential as well. Cause I'm like, was that all made up? Was like, and then also it's like, is stand-up a drug? And am I just...
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Well,
and am I just...
100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
Am I just swapping drugs, you know?
Interesting. I mean, I feel the same way with music.
Yeah.
And sometimes I guess it helps me keep it in check, you know, because it's very easy to be like, okay, it's the next recording. It's going to cost this much. And then it's, okay, double. And then we got to market it. And then you're like, okay. And then next thing you know... it's thousands of dollars, and you're like, oh, I'm here again? Like, again?
That's, with stand-up, like, it's like, luckily, like, we just, you know what I mean? Like, yes, there's album recordings and stuff, but even at that, it's not the same level that you would need to invest as it is for music, you know?
Yeah.
But like, so the last podcast we just did, there were two other comedians on, and Michelle and I are kind of... and them are opposites in the sense that they just like to do good shows mostly. You know what I mean? They don't see the value in doing a shitty show. And Michelle and I are like, we want to do like let's say stand up is our drug and it's the comparison to like weed. We want to smoke good weed, bad weed, all weed. Just give me weed. Just give me fucking weed. Let me get high.
That's it.
Let me do stand up. I just want to make anyone laugh. I can make laugh. And it's fully just in, and it's irrational almost.
Well, I guess it's also a fine line between, you want to play and get the airtime, and just, the more airtime you get, the sharper you get. But yeah, I think we're at a point, at least in my band with Sash and I, it's like we want to play, but the more we play, it feels almost like the less impact it has. Because
that's fair.
Because especially in Montreal, it's such a small scene that if you're trying to play once a month, how are you gonna? People aren't gonna come once a month and see you
Fully.
No.
for sure.
Yeah.
So how often do you play with the band, with Sash? And do you play with other people as well?
No, I'm just with Sash. I've been in other bands, and sometimes I play perks in other bands and stuff. But
You ever do like jam sessions?
I used to be a huge jammer.
Okay.
And with Sash, it's more like it's just like we hop in, go 300 miles an hour, and hop off.
Nice.
So it's a different kind of jamming because he'll just like say whatever's in his head and play, and it's like that's how we build songs. He just kind of mumbles, and it's like free flow wording as it comes out.
Yeah.
And I record everything on my phone, and then I just chop it up, send it to him, and write down what it is that I hear that he was saying.
Yeah, that's really
so
cool.
it's cool.
I like that.
Because
that is
it's
so cool. What a process. That was my next question, so I'm so happy you went right into it.
Yeah, well, and it's cool because, so we go back and forth to Toronto once a month ever since the pandemic.
Oh, cool. Me too.
Really?
We should
Yeah,
coordinate.
you go back and forth to Toronto?
I live in Toronto now. I come back to do the podcast once a month, to get in the podcast for the month.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But you're from here.
I'm originally from here. I moved to Toronto last year.
Okay, cool.
To do stand up there.
Cool.
And to do school. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, we there's this whole French English thing that we kind of touched upon before. As a Anglo, it's funny because I went to French school my whole life. My mother tongue is French.
Yeah.
But I'm an Anglo artist, and there's just not the same outlook on life because there's just not as many grants, there's not as much help, there's not as much infrastructure, and
In Quebec, you mean?
in Quebec,
Yeah. It is a battle that English artists face. Yeah.
Sucks.
And it doesn't mean because I express myself artistically mostly in English that I'm anti-French.
No.
I'm very
It's just how you
everyone
found
should learn.
It's how you express yourself.
It was like you said,
what it
it's
is.
your mother tongue. Like I'm half French Canadian. My mom's French Canadian. I appreciate the culture. I love so much about French culture and how it bleeds into even the culture of Montreal. I don't think Montreal would be the same without the French component.
not.
Of course not. Even the vibes of it, French Canadian vibes sometimes are just way better. Even I find living in Toronto was a culture shock for me in terms of vibes. I know that sounds so annoying to say, but really just completely different vibes, completely.
Montreal's a fake city. Montreal is an outlier city from everything else. Montreal, just the way of living here and everything here is just we had someone move here from Ottawa and they described it as Grand Theft Auto. And it really is like Grand Theft Auto. It's just
Yeah.
we're all doing our missions. You know what I mean? There is parts where the people are just living normal lives. But I feel like Montreal is because rent is so cheap and just so,
Is it though?
Well, for us, it doesn't feel cheap anymore. But
when you
compared
compare it to other
anything
cities,
else,
no, for sure. But it's definitely I don't know. I feel like when you step out of Montreal, you realize that Montreal, en tout cas, selon moi, is living on the glory that its past glory.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
Especially with the arts, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess it's been hard to I'm the first one of my family born here. Neither of my parents were born here.
Where are they from?
My mom was born in Egypt.
Okay.
And my dad is Italian from the United States, Italian American. So
Is he what state was he from?
Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
my grandparents,
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they have very thick Boston accents.
Yeah.
And my Egyptian
then full
family does
Egyptian.
not have a French Canadian accent.
Nice.
at
That's
all.
a crazy mix.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that is a crazy mix.
well, it's
Well, I guess, but
It's
Yeah.
all Mediterranean. They're close
Yeah.
countries. It sounds
sure.
crazy, but it's
No, not crazy, but I like it. It's it's not a common. Like,
I dig it, yeah.
Italian Egyptian is not a one that you see often.
One of my very best friends and oldest friends, he's half Italian, half Egyptian.
Really?
And yeah, and it's like and
do you consider yourselves Québécois?
no.
So,
Well,
okay,
half
when
because
I'm-
my mom is
Okay.
half.
When I live here, no. When I'm anywhere else, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You know, like I stand by it and I'm proud. But when I'm here, I don't feel like a Québécois. I just started doing French comedy though. And they're so fucking amazing to me. And it makes me feel more attached to it while I'm here. But outside of that, I don't feel it while I'm here.
Yeah. When I'm in Toronto now full time mostly, and I miss it. Like whenever I meet another Montreal or another Quebecer, like in Toronto, I'm like the happy, like that's when I miss it, and that's when I identify with it more. And then like I've even been like I need to like be listening to French radio every day because I don't want to lose the French, and like I don't want to but it and it's my mom is half French Canadian, so we do a lot of like French Canadian even like traditions and stuff, and I am craving more connection to that culture actually, not living in Montreal so much because I guess you take it for granted and
for
stuff.
Come do some French stand up.
Yeah, I
Do the
mean,
Gong Show. Just do Gong Show. You're gonna
I
love
could
it
do it
so much.
Yeah, it would be good. It's just I'm more scared that like my humor won't translate.
No,
but,
no, you're good.
But yeah, I'll yes, I have to. Pantelis has been telling me to, so I should. Yeah.
Do you consider yourself Québécois?
No,
Okay.
no.
Even if you're like somewhere else or
Montrealer. I'm
Yeah.
definitely a Montrealer.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like Montreal, yes, Quebecois, not at all.
That's fair.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, when I go play
I don't fit
shows-
in at all.
Yeah. Well,
That's
and the
true.
culture, I mean, Montreal is this little, like, it is a bit of a bubble in that way of it is, like it's more liberal than the rest of the province.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a city, right? So it's full of like, it's city folk and there's like more diversity and there's like more happening. And there's like also like, because it's an international city, I think it brings in the English as well. And there's more Anglo and stuff. You go like an hour anyway and there's people who don't speak English,
No,
and I
for sure.
wouldn't identify like, I mean, I do because my family is very French and
fair.
Quebecois, but no, like living in Montreal, I wouldn't necessarily say, I would say I'm a Quebecer, yeah.
But it's not to say that Quebec culture isn't cool, and
No, it's great.
it's just more
Well, and I'm assuming if
personal
you're an
thing.
Anglo
Yeah.
artist, I'm assuming as like a kid and growing up, you consumed Anglo content most of the time.
American from
Yeah.
my American dad.
Okay, yeah, exactly. That makes sense. So for you, you were always like, and that's how I felt as a kid fully. I was always like, why don't we get to be like the States? You know what I mean? Even like seeing like American schools as a kid in TV shows
Yeah.
with like 3,000 kids. Then I'm going to my school with like 200 kids, you know what I mean? Or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's felt like a, like not, like we have Family Channel, not Disney Channel. This is a big thing for me. I'm never going to let it go.
I'm never going to let it go either, too.
it's fucked
Did
up,
you not
man.
watch YTV?
I watch YTV too.
Yeah, YTV was great.
Yeah.
So was
YTV was
Teletoon.
How old are you?
Sorry,
How old are you?
how old do you think I am?
You're doing my bit. it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. I would say 32.
Okay,
Probably older because you have kids, 37.
close. 35.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
nice. Yeah.
Look
How old
at
do you
it.
think I
Look
am?
at us.
Sorry,
How old do you think I am?
40. No, I'm kidding. Probably like 27.
Okay, nice. Yeah, 26.
26,
Yeah,
yeah.
you nailed it. There you go. See, you don't look as old as you think.
No. But also, like, I
You
could
kinda told him.
have taken off my hat.
Yeah.
I know how to get the answer I want. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's one thing. Since I started doing stand up, I was 20. No, 21 actually, and I looked 32. I was bald and not shaving my head, and I had the beard out of control. And I realized early on, like, people are looking at me like a 32-year-old, and I'm just saying retarded stuff. And they're like, what's wrong with this guy? And at some point, I had to be like, wait, how old do you think I am? And then became my
Yeah.
thing. And at this point, I've asked over 1,000 people how old
Yeah.
they think I am. Like every time I'm on stage, pretty much, I ask someone.
So-
and I know how to guide them to what I want.
So how much of your identity is how you view yourself, and how much of your identity is how other people view you?
That's a great question.
So there's two parts to my set. There's the establishing part of like what I am versus what they think I am. Especially right now because like I have a comedy club, and a lot of the time it's a very small comedy club. We're not very successful. I'm the one doing everything. So they see me at the door and I check their tickets, and then I get on stage. So I even have to tell them they have a perception of me that like I need to get out of the way. And then once that's through, I can get into me and my life and how I see things. And they already kind of know me, so they can get behind it, understanding my personality.
Interesting.
I think.
We interrupted you though. You were saying that you drive back and forth
To Toronto.
to do sets.
Yeah.
And you were saying that you guys jam really in a really insane way.
Oh, well, it's not really improv. We were talking about jamming versus improv versus it's like, so during the pandemic, everything was closed. Everything was more intense in Quebec than it was in Ontario. And so we would go to Ontario and play in parks and play acoustic sets. And we played, there's this park called High Park, and we got lights and we just set up in the middle. And it was crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah, people were coming out from the forest like, what's going on? We did it in Montreal once too. So yeah, I guess our improv is more in that sense. It's like the excitement of setting up somewhere where it's like, what's going on, and then letting it all flow, as opposed to just being in a basement and like jamming endlessly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of jamming. I don't know what the equivalent to stand up would be. I guess open
Improv.
mics or like improv. Yeah,
It would be like improv and like riff shows.
Riff
My
shows.
buddies who we do the comedy jam with, they just have a jam every Wednesday, and it's like there's always like a set part of the show. And then they go, all right, if anybody wants to get up, anyone wants to do anything, just come let us know and we'll do something. People can go sing, they can play the drums, they can play the guitar. They bring their own instruments too. And it's a beautiful thing.
It's so
like when it
beautiful.
works, when it doesn't work, obviously. You know, there's one
It's
time I
a
was
dog's
there.
breakfast when it
This
doesn't
guy
work. and
with
you're
his
like,
he had his saxophone and he wouldn't shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Did like 7 solos. They're all jamming together.
Yeah.
It was like, what is this guy doing? And then I got up to do comedy after and I wouldn't stop talking about him with his fucking saxophone. And I think I went too far. But anyways.
Well, what's cool, so being a two-piece rock and roll band is it's very easy to go into, since we're only two, you want to take up a bunch of space.
yeah,
But now, after 6 years and just everything that we've been through together, we're learning that it's what you're not playing and you're leaving space for things to breathe.
Yes.
And it has so much more impact and it feels so much heavier, but you're playing less. And I think that comes from that presence too of being like, okay, there's the song. What does the song need? What does the performance need? If everyone is just being super busy, nothing is connecting. Everything is fighting with each other.
right.
So that whole relativity thing and like taking up space. I'm saying this because I'm thinking about the whole comedy thing and how if you're just blah, 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 the whole way through, it's like you're
100% right. Timing and
Yeah.
letting things simmer.
happen,
Please.
letting it come
Wow.
to you as well.
There's a comedian who I believe is the best comedian in this city, has the best like potential with what he can do on stage. He writes more jokes than anyone else, and he cranks those fucking jokes out. But right now, that's what's happening to him. Is almost just so much to get through that he's just hammering it out and like not even letting them hear it.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
And it could be the best stuff, but it's just the delivery is
The delivery is everything.
Everything.
Yeah, I've had that opposite experience of the fact that I'm like actively disassociating when I'm doing some of my material now, like my old stuff. I'm like on stage disassociating and then like literally like not even there and then coming back, and the audience feels that. Like
Yeah.
they feel when you've like left
Yeah.
your body or left the joke or
Yeah.
like you're not into the joke anymore.
it's like mechanical.
It's
almost.
mechanical, or like they feel like if it's like a script and they're kind of like they feel that. So you do have to like manage that too, and like you said, like give space to the joke and what you're saying.
There's also like a hypnotization aspect of it
Mm-hmm.
where like I'm sure it's a thing in music as well, where even people who aren't good, who know how to hypnotize an audience, can get them just in it with certain flow and certain rhythm of the telling the jokes that like they're not good jokes. They're not even going to remember the punchlines. They just know when this guy leans forward, it's time to laugh. And it's almost like there's this weird, so like when you are not present, it's almost like you have no chance to hypnotize them. If you're disassociated, you're almost hypnotizing yourself because like you don't feel
you're
like telling that
you're
joke
actually
and you're
fighting
just like,
yourself.
Yeah.
You're like trying to get back in your body, trying to get back to being present, and you can't because you're just so far away because you've lost faith in the joke. Like
Yeah.
you've lost faith in yourself as well.
in that moment.
Yeah, in that moment. I had another question and I can't remember it.
Like fucking, I know that this is hack, but I'm not a musician, okay? So don't judge me for this example. But just like Freddie Mercury at the big one,
Oh, the live.
Live Aid.
whatever it was.
I don't know if it was Live Aid. But
Yeah, it was
I
Live
thought
Aid.
it was Live
exactly.
Aid.
It
I
was
just
Live Aid.
wasn't sure if it was Live Aid.
100%. Like there are so many things that he does in that performance that aren't just the music. You know what I mean? So many things to just get that audience just
Yeah,
hypnotized with him. And there's so many people to do that is insane, but you need to do that in that situation. Because like comics always say, to go do an arena sucks.
Oh, because it's so hard to connect, right? How do you take X amount of people and humanize it into one person, you know, and have a relationship?
And then you hear about people who are able to do, and it's a certain skill set that's crazy to acquire, and it's very hard. But like, it's just it's such a, I don't know, such an important thing to be able to connect with the people.
Well, parallel between music and kids for me. I learned that with kids, it's one thing to be physically present, but it's another thing to be emotionally present. So you can be physically present, you're there, but again, you're dissociating and you're letting kind of your life jumble in your head or whatever it is that you're spiraling about. And it's like, I find it's been hard because you think, okay, well, I'm here, but it feels like your brain is always going, and ultimately you're not really here, you know? And your kids, I find, can really sense that.
They for sure.
Yes, for sure.
They for sure can.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a really tough one because you don't want to just be physically present.
No.
But then it's so hard to be emotionally present because it feels like life today can be very challenging, and to like really turn it off is a skill that I'm still trying to achieve, you know, for sure. To trying to tune it out for a while. But I find for me, exercise really helps. I started playing basketball again.
Nice.
I hadn't played in a long time, and it's like, yeah, it does my body wonders, but it does my mental
Yeah.
fitness wonders because it's like you get to exteriorize so much more than just, you know, physical energy. You're focused. You get home and it's like, yeah. So again, you time away is ultimately making me more present when I am there. You know, you learn to like, okay, compartmentalize. Here I'm doing this and here I'm doing that. But I think with COVID, it's been hard because it's been such a like, you know, the days were just like weeks and the weeks were just months, and you're like, okay, it was tough to compartmentalize. But
I think we were all just trying to get like, how do we get through this day again?
Yeah.
How do we, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, sorry to get graphic here,
No,
but
no,
I
no.
fucking took so many poops a day. It just trained my body to, if you got a 10-minute break right now from trying to get through the day, it's going to be quite nice. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it
Well,
was
you
crazy.
would-
When's the last time you went to the bathroom without your phone?
I don't.
Really?
No, I don't do that.
Do girls?
I bring my phone. No, I always bring my phone. I try.
I mean, I have my phone always. Sorry. I have my phone always.
Oh, okay.
Like, I do not go without my phone.
Okay, double.
yeah.
Okay, that's
I'm
why.
the same way.
sorry.
I'm pretty bad with that. Like,
As am I. I'm just saying.
yeah, because I like often do. I'm like really impatient. So like in the bathroom, I'll be like, oh, there's a bunch of things like I've been like putting off doing, like sending emails or whatever, and I'm kind of like stuck here. So I'm just like, well, I'm stuck here. So we're gonna send the emails that we
I
don't want to
wonder
do.
how many emails are.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you get-
I
every time you-
love a FaceTime
Yeah.
while I'm pooping.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Every time you get an email from me, I'm on the,
You just hit
I'm on the
mute quick.
John.
But it's literally like there's during the pandemic days, I realized that like there is value in sitting there longer because then that like 10 minutes in, you get that second level and it's ready to go now, you know? And I got a squatty potty and everything.
Oh, Squatty
do
Potty's
I.
the best.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I have a squat
could-
buddy. And a tushy.
Oh, nice,
Yeah,
dude. Fuck yeah,
I just bought one. I just had
Change
to
your life.
install it.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I had one in my old apartment, and then I was like, I wanted to get an upgrade, and then I just haven't installed it. But yeah, no, it changes your life, and then you can't go any like.
Oh my God, you
Like,
go
you
to a
can't do-
hotel.
you
It's like a
can't
nice
do-
hotel. You're like, these animals don't have a squatty potty?
No,
Yeah.
but the best
Or like a
explanation is
bidet.
if you had dog shit on your arm,
Yes.
would you wipe it with just a piece of paper?
No, exactly.
Well,
yes,
you would wet
100%.
it.
That's
You
fair.
would wet it. You would clean it. It would be even soap.
Come on.
So I don't have a bidet. I have the squatty potty, but I wipe till I bleed.
Ooh,
Yeah.
might want to get that checked.
Yeah.
Well, no, because it's not like I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Take a
I
shower.
I
Take a
gotta know
shower.
that's, and then for a few days I'll have to like wipe and then shower. Shower. But I don't always.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all the
fucking,
time.
I gotta show.
Yeah,
poop,
but
I'll wipe till I bleed rather than. Okay, I'm sorry. We're
I
out of it.
suggest
Out of the
the
poop.
shower.
You just got a nosebleed right
Yikes.
now. It's because he won't put the heat on in his room. This guy.
Yeah,
Anyways.
dry nose.
Get-
Can I just say, I just think it's so funny that this is real. We just moved in together, and he's like, "What color do I paint my room?" And I know that he's a person who like really likes to focus on like mental health and like being happy. He likes to do his walks if he's down or
Yeah.
get sunlight, So I go green. Green's a great color for a room to give you extra happiness.
Is it?
It is. It's a real
color
thing.
theory, like
Yeah.
vetted and everything.
And then he goes,
But then he told me which color he painted.
no. And then I go, and then if you make it the right kind of green, you got a built-in green screen as a joke. He goes, "Oh shit, that's a good idea." And now his room is a green screen.
Really? I've been looking for a green screen room.
It's really like you don't actually need. So if you buy that, so you can buy the chroma key. You could get the chroma key paint. It's not worth it. You just paint it the right shade of green, you're good to go because all the softwares know how to green screen it. But the chroma key is like so expensive for that amount of paint. But are you saying like, yeah, you could use this room anytime
No,
you
because
need?
I just want to like. There's these rock and roll videos.
Yeah.
Like Black Sabbath playing in a giant green, like in front of a giant green screen, and they're just projecting the weirdest things, and I just think it's the coolest
I'm
thing.
sure he'll be down. Let's
Yeah.
ask him when he gets back. It's easy too because he doesn't have a bed frame, so his mattress could just be turned and moved out and moved right back in. You know?
I'll show you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe we just got a nosebleed. Oh my God. Get a humidifier, Matt.
He got a humidifier tire too. an air purifier.
Air purifier,
Oh,
but that's
different.
different.
Yeah.
That's for the cats.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
for the
recommended
cats.
him getting that. But yeah, also he should get a humidifier for the winter. It's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, but pre-poop, what were we saying?
Something about mental.
Pandemic, getting through the days that it just
yeah.
changed the way we see life almost, and like getting
Yeah.
that like out of our habits is like changing the world almost. And so many people dropped off. So many people
Yeah.
are never gonna go back.
No.
And there's a new generation of kids that are gonna learn from that and those habits and see their parents do that. Think about back in the day, how many times your parents were like, "Get out of the house, go do something, go play outside, go do." And I feel like that was such a common thing that like
Yeah.
now that's going away. Is here's your iPad, you do your homework, okay, play your video games.
Yeah. No,
Mm-hmm.
that is it is crazy to see how much screen time
Yep.
us kids and what's crazy is like imagine it's like we as a parent, let's say you can preach and say, get off the screen, but if they see you on the phone all day, then they're just gonna do as they see,
Yeah.
So you got to
100%.
check yourself, and then you realize, wow, we're definitely addicted to these phones.
For
and the
sure.
internet's been around for like 20 years.
But then there's also the theory
nothing.
that maybe this is like
30
the
years,
way
maybe.
people think that we're going to become like one with machines. Maybe this is part of the evolution to that. That
oh,
like
I have a question. I have a
Yes.
question about
Yeah.
AI then.
okay.
If you could have if you could have an interaction with someone who's deceased, like, would you?
Like over AI?
Yeah.
Oh man, it depends who.
Because I was gonna say, like, with this over posting on social media, like for sure, and maybe I'm being conspiracy theorist here, but like for sure,
Place to do it. We've got a lot of
Yeah.
theorists in the house.
for sure, like all this information, you can recreate. Let's say if I were to die today, with everything that I've posted, you could, anticipate what I would have said.
You
Yes.
could like put it in like in a generator of some kind, and then if like God
So
forbid
my
you were
kids
to
could
pass,
always chat with the
with
AI, whether I'm alive or not.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I don't know about that.
I think that there's also even the next level is the thing that Elon Musk is making that you can like literally connect the thing to your brain. That imagine it was literally connected to your brain for years, and then you're gonna die, and you can upload your consciousness at that point because your consciousness is so many years.
See,
of
I
being
don't like
connected to
that.
thing.
I don't like that.
I don't know if I would get that thing. The Elon Musk. I forget off the top of my mind. I can't remember what it's called.
That's kind of what's happening, though.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're just uploading it for free. We're posting all this
We're
stuff.
giving them everything.
And-
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I worry about it being driven by the wrong things. I think that would be interesting, like if like a grief psychologist was kind of studying it, or there was like reasons for it to exist. But I think grief is a big part of life, and I worry about like people's inability to like go through the right thing, like grieving processes. If we're never grieving anything, I don't know.
Yeah.
Will that change like human psyche? I don't know. It's
interesting because so the subject of grief has been very present for me throughout my life, and I realized too that you grieve people who have died, but you grieve relationships, you grieve people that are still living, you grieve your old self. Grieving is ultimately rebirth, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're learning to accept and move forward without something.
Yeah.
And you have to acknowledge that it hurts.
It hurts and it's gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gone in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely have kept a relationship in my heart, and a relationship that has grown with my mom. Whether that's real or not doesn't really matter.
No.
Right? Like,
I don't think it does. Yeah. Yeah. Would you, if it had the AI been available 15 years ago, do you think that would have been a helpful tool? Because then it's like the concept is too, is like, is it a helpful tool?
Yeah. Or are you just... Or are we just...
But it just feels like it feels like escapism. And I feel like that's what we are all doing, is like, we're all like distracting ourselves and escaping and not like necessarily being present in the moment, because we have these accesses to like everything. People who don't live in the same place as us, like we literally have access to everything in this little box. And that kind of, I don't know, I wonder if that is in that way, is it a tool then, or is it just another drug?
I think there's also this side where like when you're grieving over someone and you're remembering them and going through it yourself, the image of them is decided by you. You take what you need to take in order for you to be okay and make that good with.
Yes.
Let's say you go to
kind
AI,
of romanticize
your grandpa dies, and you're talking about your new girlfriend, and he calls her the N-word because he's an old racist man. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not how you need to remember your grandpa.
Okay,
It's better if you're just like, grandpa would have been happy to see me in love. You know what I mean? Like,
we do romanticize our memories of people, and I think they've done studies on memory too. It's like after a certain while, like the nostalgia element is based on this romanticization, and it's funny because I always ask my dad, I'm like, do you think, like my grandmother passed when I was very young at 13. So I think at this point, like close to 15, 14 years ago. And I remember asking, being like, do you think she would have been stoked about me being a stand-up? And he was like, because she was a very like badass, like she was a bit of a troll when she was younger, and she was always this like, I just grew up knowing that my grandmother was just like, she just didn't take shit from anybody. You know what I mean? She was like the matriarch. And so I'm like, do you think she would be like proud of me that I was doing this thing? And he was like, no. He was like, she probably wouldn't think it was a real job, And in my mind, I'm like carrying my grandmother and like the essence of her and like driving and it's like we keep them alive too. So it's like, have this AI, maybe if I'm like, I'm doing this, maybe exactly like you. She's like, no,
you're a loser.
She's like, get a fucking real job.
Exactly, yeah.
So maybe it's more beautiful that like it does live through us. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But then if it's like a tool for people to grieve, it just feels like prolonging the acceptance of it.
If you're like, I could talk to Jeffrey Epstein over AI, like I would do. I want to know what happened, man. You know what I mean? Like, but like maybe grieving over family members, I don't think it's healthy for me. But like, throw fucking Stephen Hawking on there.
But would AI like?
He's dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
No, on the AI.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
okay.
So I want.
But
Sorry,
would
I was
AI be able
riffing
to
still on the Jeffrey Epstein?
But would AI really be able to tell you about the secrets that they kept?
Who knows? If it was Neuralink,
Because right right now my understanding of AI is it just scrapes like all
For sure.
relevant information that you input.
Every
The output of it's
so you know how
not
it's like ChatGPT 3, ChatGPT 4.
Yeah.
Every level will like access like a higher ability for the AI.
Right.
And I think that with the Neuralink shit, it's gonna be able to go to another level. Now, I don't know anything.
Do you know the Dudesy podcast?
No.
Do you know Will Sasso?
Yes,
Okay, he has a podcast.
George Carlin.
So did you see that?
I did not watch it, but I heard about it and I heard the controversy over it. But please,
So explain it because I know nothing.
So
You're good? Okay,
They
good.
had an AI generated Carlin stand up.
yes.
And he was delivering jokes and it was like you could look on their faces was like, whoa, because it's entirely AI.
Yeah.
But it sounded like him. It was the same type of flow, quality.
Cadence.
It was cadence, but it was crazy. And you're going like, what's gonna happen?
But then his family was very upset, and like he probably would have been upset because like now there's all these opinions and thoughts that aren't necessarily his, that they just decided were his.
Well, the rope, like the machine learning
Yes.
decided. Yeah.
It's
So
crazy.
How do you feel about like that's interesting they've done that, but they did that too with like musicians. Like I remember when I was working a few years ago, I was working with a tech company and one of the engineers was like, I showed him, I was like, they like redid like I think it was like maybe not a Nirvana song, but they did like a song and it was like perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like,
There are-
especially
But how-
imagine Kurt Cobain, like it's just
Yes.
the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
So
there
what
are
do you
Drake
think-
I don't
songs
dig
that
it.
have there are Drake songs that have blown up to like hundreds of millions.
Wasn't
of
it
views
like
now.
Drake in the Weekend?
Drake in the Weekend, exactly.
Yeah, but it wasn't them. And they're like, well,
But so how do you feel about that as a musician? Like the ability for machines to create art that's almost like to this level.
I mean, I think it's here, right?
Yeah.
So to complain about it is like it's more. What are you going to do about it? And I find I've been trying to dig even deeper into what it's like to be a human, because you can have machines tell you what it's like and regurgitate what it's like to be human, but it's like you need to actually live it. And I think that in time, people will always resonate with someone that is, sticking their neck on the line, sticking their neck out,
Right.
and just like being human, being vulnerable, saying how they
Right.
feel. I think that, yeah, you can always commercialize something and maybe it'll make a lot of money. But I mean, again, what's success? Is it a lot of money or is it connecting with people?
Personal fulfillment, yeah. So this Weekend Drake song, like, does it get airplay?
No,
Like,
no, they're not
'cause
allowed.
No,
like,
they're-
that's
'cause of
like so
copyright,
illegal.
Because of copyright, yeah.
It could be on things that are not for profit. It could be like released like
Like, yeah, like
unmonetized, but it can't be
years.
released for.
But like in music, it's tough, right? Because there's the master track, and so that you can create like with Taylor Swift. I don't know if you heard what happened with Taylor Swift is.
Oh, the AI photos.
No, I don't know. About
Oh
that.
my
no, I'm talking
god,
about
dude, it's horrible. I feel so bad for. They're fully doing like AI, like Taylor Swift, like naked, just like getting like
Well, think about that's
getting banged by all the Chiefs players. Like it's crazy. It's
terrible.
It's insane what's out
no.
there. It's fucking. It's.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Yeah. Terrible.
But sorry, so it was happening with. Sorry, are you
No,
talking
what
about
I was
Scooter?
saying
Scooter
is-
Braun?
Yeah, so
Okay.
there's master tracks, and it's like, well, if you can re-record a song and then you own that master track and you can monetize that. I forget where I was going with this though.
We were talking about AI, and then we were talking about music, and then you were talking about Taylor Swift and Scooter Braun and Master Track, because I said they can't play The Weeknd and Drake, that like the copyright issue.
Yeah, well, because you're using someone else's likeness to sell something, and even
Yeah.
though you created it, it's like
Yeah.
They didn't own exactly Scooter Braun. Well, and that's the whole thing. And it's so crazy talking conspiracy theories. George Soros is like at the top of all the evil things in the world in the conspiracy theories. George Soros is literally the one who funded Scooter Braun buying Taylor Swift's music out from under her, and she wanted to buy it, and they didn't let her. And it is
Yeah.
what
Didn't
she's
they come
doing.
out and say that George Soros is Taylor Swift?
That would be crazy.
He's like, yeah, he's transforming
Well,
into her talking shit on himself.
In South Park when Randy was Lord. I don't know if
Okay.
you.
No.
Yeah.
I'm a Family Guy girl. I don't watch South Park. Not that they're mutually
Not that-
exclusive, but
No, they're not. They're not.
but it's
I
a
like
different
both.
humor.
It's part of I'm a Swiftie
You can like
now.
both.
You can like both. Yeah, yeah. You can enjoy both. You
Yeah.
don't have to.
Just like you can like George Soros and Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
They're the same person.
Exactly. Why would you not like them? I just like it made me like Taylor Swift so much more that she was like, "Oh, you bought my music. I'm gonna re-record it and tell all my fans to not listen to that other shit." And they're definitely punching walls because they bought that with the intention of having it for 100 years,
Yeah, but fuck them.
and they got it for like 5 years.
They tried to corner. They did what actually somebody else that went through this that didn't get as much, like I guess, or I don't know, at the time didn't know how to navigate was like JoJo. JoJo's back now because I don't know if you guys know JoJo. Like
Like,
Get
yeah.
out, right?
yeah. So she had those bangers. She had like full like banger, 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 banger. And then they basically did exactly that. Like stole her music, had made her sign this like insane contract, and she wasn't allowed to record for I think like 10, 15 years.
You'd be
crazy.
surprised
So she was-
how many contracts are still like that.
Yeah.
For real.
The
Yeah.
music,
And
the
having
music
been
industry is
to-
crazy.
Well, what's cool is so both Sash and I went to business school, and it's an aspect of music that I really enjoy is reading all these biographies and you hear all these horror stories about contracts, and then you start reading about contracts and reading about just the music industry as a whole and how it works. And Quebec is very specific, but the States has its own thing, and it's all been built on screwing over the artist.
Of course.
And to this day, there's contracts that have come our way that are like lifetime for you, your children, and your descendants for life. And you're
Yeah.
like, what kind of weird
Yeah, it's
language?
crazy.
Like, why?
Yeah. And they assume that people weren't. That's
Reading.
the thing is because they assume because artists, because of the way that art has been for so long, it's like kind of been like not a poor man's sport, but it usually that's kind of what it started as, right? Because like before, like it was, I feel like art was put in like this box of like leisure, and only like people who were like rich enough to like afford the leisure were allowed to do it. And then it like kind of became like whatever. And then, whatever. There's like the starving artist trope exists for a reason, right? So it's like you are getting these people who are dying for an opportunity. They're the perfect people to victimize and like kind of trap.
Yeah.
Same
And it
thing with
really is.
stand-up. How many
It's
people
also-
sign off contracts they don't even read?
For sure.
It's also
For
just
sure.
like getting in at the ground floor at like fucking 40 different startup companies. One of them's gonna pop off. You're
Yeah.
gonna make your money back. You're good
Yeah.
to go. And
Yeah.
then those one, it's like nobody's gonna get into a deal like that where they make money and they're unsuccessful and they're upset. It's like it really sucks when like it's predatory against someone who has a full career ahead of them, and then they get their career and they don't even realize what they agreed to. You
Yeah,
know?
it's
And then
control.
it's just like, by the way, you're ours.
Yeah, forever.
Yep.
Yeah. And they don't tell you until it's too
In
late.
perpetuity.
Yeah.
Yeah, like perpetually, you are ours forever. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Whatever
what
you say, whatever you write, whatever you sing, we have first dibs.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
And it's also it definitely didn't like okay, so I would imagine that there was someone who did it at first where the company was just like, look, you're gonna be ours and everything's gonna be ours, but we're gonna give you a fair deal for that. It's a weird thing. No, but like maybe like I don't know.
Prince is the only one that said like no. They said, oh, you're gonna make music this way, and we're gonna own. He's like, no, I'm gonna record it my way, and I'm gonna own my masters.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was a huge,
No,
huge
but
deal.
and then maybe it was a small scale deal, and then another company sees it and they go, "Oh, we could do that too." Once it's like the idea, like I feel like so many things start off as a good idea, and then
Or start
just
off
get
with good intentions.
Good intentions,
Yeah.
and then everyone around it who's like they're like vampires who just like, "Oh, we can turn this into a way for us to make more millions."
Right. Well, because the logic of business, I don't know if fits in always with like the integrity of art. Like the logic of business is that nothing's personal. So you just, I mean, I don't know. I didn't go to business school, but you know what I mean? Like it's just like the logic of business is that it's just like, it's not personal. Every decision is made rationally
Like,
on a logical, like impersonal
Just for laughs.
reason. Yeah.
The originals recordings. There's a channel on Sirius XM that plays Canadian comedy. And for years and years and years and years, Canadian comics were getting their money that way. Releasing an album and putting it on this channel. And then Just for Laughs started this thing, which is great, where they get very new comics, most of the time new comics, sometimes established comics. Also, I don't know. Like,
All kinds.
Great comics, all kinds, sorry.
but newer.
But new
yeah.
in general, like less than 10 years in, I would say, when I mean new. They record for them, they release it, And the comics make money off of it, but the comics are only making maybe 20, 25% of what it was. I don't know what the numbers are exactly. Then Just for Laughs was like, we're making so much money off of this. Let's just buy the channel and only play our stuff. So it started off as like a good, well-intentioned thing. Let's get Canadian comics paid. Just Laughs, let's help out these comics, get some money in so they can actually focus on their career, to then, oh shit, we're making so much money off that 75%. Why are we going to let this guy who has 100% of his album make his money? We need to make that 75%.
Well, look at like streaming platforms. Everyone's like, oh, well, you know what? Fuck Netflix. We're Disney. We're going to have our own. And then Paramount's like, well, fuck all you guys. We're going to have our own. And now I'm sure, like, why wouldn't it happen in music? Like every giant label, you know what? Every giant distributor is we're gonna have our own platform. We're gonna have, so it's just.
Which is funny because it's just like reinventing channels.
Exactly.
Like we're like just back to reinvent. Like, but that's what I mean. Everything is a remix. Like we are living in remix culture. Like everything is a remix on something else that has worked before. You know.
That's true.
And so it's like, but in this, like, I mean, I guess with channels, you never really owned anything either, but that's the same thing with streaming, is like you don't own anything. And so now there's like all these fears about like TV shows that were created as Netflix originals. Like at a certain point, they can just decide that they're not putting it, like they're not going to stream it anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's like a whole other issue with like writing and stuff. But like for writers, it's like you do have to, I'm taking like a business of screenwriting class this semester in my program to kind of understand like all the like the licensing, ownership and stuff, because as a writer, like you can either just like sell your script and then they'll give you one flat rate and then they'll make all the money that they want on that. But if you're a writer, let's say you have that signs a Netflix deal, that show is not necessarily Netflix can decide at some point like, oh, we're just not gonna have it anymore.
Yeah,
you know, like how Disney used to put like movies in the vault. Like that's kind of what Netflix is doing now. So we kind of rent everything. We don't own anything. So I feel like DVDs might come back.
Well, and then also
Look
the
at
whole
vinyl.
thing.
Vinyl's back,
has
yeah.
come back, yeah.
The whole thing was get away from these television providers. Get Netflix. You have everything you need. But now you don't have everything you need. If you want to watch everything, you need Disney, you need Prime, you need Netflix. Comes out to the same price as it would be for the whole TV package.
For sure. And the providers knew that. And they just said, okay, let's just go and make our own streaming service. And we're going to get them right back. Like Bell and Crave work together. Like it's, and it's all business.
And around we go.
And around we go. Okay, we have to wrap up because we were a little bit over time, but this was so fun, and
this was
what
great.
a great conversation. Thank you for doing
Nice to meet you, man.
this podcast.
nice
It was
to meet
so
you.
great meeting you. Is there anything you'd like to plug while you're here? I mean, your band, obviously. If you're working on any projects or if you have any upcoming shows, this episode will probably come out in like the next like 3 weeks or so. So keep that in mind.
Well, we're working on new music. I don't know if
Okay.
it's going to be out by then, but the Flamingos Pink, the best rock and roll duo, 1-2 punch since Shaq and Kobe, I would say.
Amazing.
What
on
else would I
Spotify,
want?
like are is
Everywhere
everything
that
you
doesn't
can
pay the
listen?
artist, that's where we are. We print we had vinyl printed, got stolen out of the car. Yeah. So you know, brutal. Yeah, but we're still here.
Holy.
Hopefully those thieves.
So if you find the Flamingos Pink vinyl on the black market, just let us know.
Let us know. Hopefully those thieves are just like jamming out, you know? They kept one for
I hope
themselves.
they're playing it loud. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
making something with it.
Yeah. Okay, well, this has been a great episode of Is It Me? And we'll see you next Friday. Bye.
Peace.